Hi, I'm Barry. I'm a retired electrician after 40 years, and I took up the hobby of quilting. And believe it or not, I have been doing this for 6 months now. And I thought I'd do a little change of pace and give you an update of my a 6 month recap, as you will, of how I've been doing. I first wanted to tell you what prompted this. I got a letter from Marie from Lapeer. I think that's where you pronounce it, Lapeer, Michigan. And I'm going to just go over this with you real fast. So hold on. She said she enjoys the videos, which is great, and my jokes. What? Oh, by the way, here's a joke. I had a whole bunch of jokes about retirement, but they didn't work. Let me know if you got that joke. Anyways, but her first question was, what is the name of the red and black block? I'm assuming this is this one. It is called the folded corner block, and basically, what are the sizes of the block? These are all 4-inch half square triangles, except for that's a solid. These are flying geese. But everything I've made, except for the Dresden plate, has been 4-inch 4-inch mini blocks. Is that what you call them? 4-inch mini blocks and 12-inch large blocks. Almost everything with everything's been 12-inch blocks with 2-inch sashings. I found that's a number that's been working for me. And she asked about the helix that I did. The helix there again is 4-inch blocks, and there's 3 across and 2 rows of them, so a total of 6 half square triangles. And I just arrange them in a certain way. You can look at it and see how it's arranged, but there's just 6 blocks, and then you just repeat it, and it's really simple. I love the look of that, but it's really simple. It's just 6 half square triangles arranged in a certain way, and then you just repeat that over and over and over for as long as you want it. And so and she says she's looking forward to the long arm. I am too. Like I said, it's been a big learning curve for me. It's coming. I'm going to show you guys how I do or don't do on that thing soon. So I wanted to get into these questions here, and I hope you stay with me. I asked people to give me a list of questions. Some asked me about my setup here. I'm going to do another video on all my sewing room soon, because it's pretty well done. And I'll give you a show of all the equipment that I use to create these videos if you want to do it. And I highly recommend, if you ever have the desire to do it, YouTube's free. Just get your phone out and just start recording. It's a little intimidating, but I'm telling you, once you start, you get addicted like I do. But so I'm going to go over these questions. There's no right or wrong answers here, so I may differ from you, but I'm just going to give you my honest opinions. Getting started. What made you decide to start quilting? Well, that one has been a little difficult, but I'll give you what I think looking back at it was. I retired about 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, 3.5 years ago. I thought that I was going to do all this stuff, and it ended up I started just sitting in my recliner and gaining weight, and I became a diabetic. And finally last year my A1C went to 12.3. So if you're not familiar with A1C, that's pretty high. And I was probably in the worst shape of my life last year. And I know a statistic. The average lifespan of an electrician after retirement, according to my employer, has been 3 years. And I didn't want to become a statistic. I didn't want that to be the end of me sitting in my lazy boy and just going off into the sunset. So I said, I got to change what I'm doing. So at the same time that I started this channel as far as quilting, I started, and with my A1C being 12.3, I got on some diabetes medicine called Manjaro. The side benefit of that is losing weight. So let me give you a weight loss recap for those of you asking. When I started this channel, and you can go back to my first video and look, I was 326.6 pounds. My heaviest was 340 pounds. So I had lost probably like 14 pounds just trying to, doing everything from low carb to calorie restriction. But when I got on that medicine, I started eating less, started eating a lot better, and I have lost 50 pounds so far. So in 6 months, I've lost 50 pounds, which it's about 2 pounds a week. I'm very happy with it. I wish I'd lose 100, but I'm happy with the 50. So like I said, just go back and look at my very first video. You'll notice that I'm a little bit fuller there. So 50-pound loss since I started. So in parallel with me starting quilting, I've been on a weight loss journey. I don't talk about it a lot because, in the past, I started doing YouTube videos about weight loss, and it seemed like it was frustrating because I was never losing, and then I would delete all the videos and I'd start again. So I don't talk about it, but yes, I've lost 50 pounds along with me learning how to quilt, so it's been a win-win. But why I started, I'm a big Audible fan. I got a subscription to Audible, and I bought several books, but the one I was just thinking about the other day was I bought an audiobook called The Ultimate Book of Fun Things to Do in Retirement. And I think in there they talked about taking up quilting or sewing, and I have always been interested. I love to go in Amish country. I'm from Kentucky, so my grandmother quilted. I've always been around quilts. I think they're fascinating. I always love the designs, and I'm 61, and I come to the point in life where I don't care what people think about me as far as, whether it's a man's thing to do or not a man's thing to do. I don't hunt. I don't fish. I have this room. I wanted something that I could do 365 days a year. When it's cold outside, it's warm in here. When it's hot outside, it's cold, it's warm in here, or it's cool in here. So I thought, what kind of hobby can I do in this room that I enjoy? And I thought, I made a list. There was like 4 or 5 things. Rubber band collecting. I'm kidding. But I made a list of things that I wanted to do, and I thought I would just give everything I had to learning how to quilt and just see where. I didn't know if I'd do it for a month and give up, but I'm telling you, it has taken me over. I'm addicted. So let me put this away here. I'm gonna try to speed these up a little bit. What was your very first project? My very first project was I went to a quilt store and bought a charm pack. It was it was right around Christmas time. I bought a charm pack, and I didn't know any better. But I watched enough videos from like Melanie Ham and stuff that I knew a 1/4 inch seam seems to be the key. So I knew to make these blocks all 1/4 inch seams, and I just took my little brother sewing machine that I had at the time, and I laid it all on the bed, and I arranged them to try to figure out that they, the blacks and the whites were separated, the reds were all separated enough that I liked the design, and then I just sewed it together, and there's the back, by the way. And I just did a straight line, and looking back at it now, it's not bad. I just put a straight line stitch on both sides of the seam all the way down, all the way through it, and that was my first quilt. So if you're getting started, I recommend trying it. Just go get a charm pack, or you can go on Amazon or anywhere and get a charm pack and give it a try. Nothing fancy, and I'm really happy with that. This is a keeper for me. How did you learn to quilt? Books, YouTube classes? I first watched Melanie Ham, and I've told, if you know this before, I made a pillow. I bought a little brother sewing machine over here. I bought a little brother sewing machine, cheap. You don't need to go out and spend a fortune for a sewing machine. But I bought a little brother sewing machine, and I made a slip cover pillow for my daughter using this this fabric right here. Matter of fact, this we call it the witches. Oh, the three witches, whatever. For Halloween, I made her that pillow. So I knew that to watch Melanie Ham, which let you know, if you watch one YouTube video on one subject, then it seems like you get 100 different videos about that subject. And that was sort of what happened to me. I started watching one quilting video, and the next thing you know, I'm bombarded by other people with quilting videos. And so that's how I learned. I just 1/4 inch seam, that's it, baby. And just started from there. And my first quilt was a sort of I didn't know what it was called at the time, but it was a sampler quilt. And I started out with just a 9-patch, and then I tried to figure out what blocks I thought would be in possession to learn. And that was I made like 5 blocks from simple to a little bit harder, until I came up with 5 blocks, and then I repeated it 6 times to make my first quilt. What tools did you start with? I purchased this ruler kit right here from Walmart. It was a whole kit. It came with a little 4-inch square. I think it did. This 6-inch by 2 foot, and a Fiskars rotary cutter. I caught a lot of flack for buying that, but it's still a good rotary cutter. I bought that, and I bought a little Alessio mini iron and a mat, and that was it. That's if you got a little sewing machine, a good rotary cutter, a ruler, iron. Most people have iron. You're in business. Go in your closet, pull out all of your old clothes, and start cutting them up and then piecing them back together. What one thing you wish you knew before you started? Why didn't I start sooner? I'm telling you, that's it. That's the one thing I wish I would have knew, is how fun and how rewarding it is, and why I've wasted all these years not doing this. I think back that if I would have started sooner, I don't try not to put regrets in, but if I would have started sooner, who knows? I might have owned a sewing machine company. I don't know. But I wish I would have. That's the one thing I didn't know, is why didn't I start sooner? The learning curve. What was the hardest thing to learn? And these are things I still don't know. I still can't tell polyester from cotton. I can't really tell you if fabric is good quality or bad quality. And a bias side, I guess it's if it's more stretchier than the other side, that's the bias side. I still have to learn that stuff. That's the hardest part. I think I don't know yet, is I don't know the quality of fabrics. I don't know good fabric from bad fabric. I don't know bias side. And I see these people tear their cloth down. I mean, that sort of frightens me. I know some people say that gives you a true cut, but I don't understand all that yet. So I'm still way got to learn a lot more. What mistakes did you make early on? I bought too many things without doing research, and then more research. So I would watch one video and somebody would say, go out and buy this rotary cutter, and I would go out and buy it, and then 2 videos later somebody else would say, no, you need to go buy this rotary cutter. And then some people say you need one that is ergonomically, I don't know how to pronounce that word, better grip. Everybody's got an opinion, but do your research. Don't go out and buy the first thing, like my Juki here. I love my Juki, but you don't need to go out and buy a fancy sewing machine right off. Go buy a cheap. Matter of fact, I should show you this in another video. I went the other day and bought a cheap Singer sewing machine on Facebook for $20. $20. So you don't need to spend a lot of money to get started. As long as it sews straight lines, you're in business. But my biggest mistake was not doing research, because I bought things that I don't need and things that I'll probably never use. How long did it take you to make your first quilt? Well, this one just took me a day or two to sew all that together. That wasn't including the binding and the adding the back, but my first was the sampler quilt, which was a queen quilt. It took me, and I've documented it in these videos, so you can go back and watch. It took me about 2 to 3 months to go from making my first blocks to finally binding it. Matter of fact, I got a video on me quilting it, so I think it's a short, so you can watch it if you want. Have you ever wanted to quit? Absolutely not. Here's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of burnout. I wake up thinking about quilting, and I go to bed thinking about quilting, and I'm afraid that I'm going to get to the point where I'm just burnt out. But what keeps me going, oh, and that's the next one, what keeps me going is that I learn something new every day. And number two, if I get burnt out on making a quilt, just know that once this quilt's done, it is done, and you can go and make another quilt. You can go make a pillow. You can go make purses if you wanted to. You can do whatever you want. And here's what I realized. You can do something every month, a different quilt. If you made one quilt a month, you can make a different quilt every month and never make the same quilt twice for the rest of your life. That's how vast this hobby is. You could literally make a different design every month and never make the same quilt twice. So that keeps me motivated, because if I'm not happy making something, hold on, what was I making the other day? Oh, the scrappy quilt. After a while, I was like, oh, I've cut these blocks so many times. But once it's done, that was done. Now I can go on to something else. Matter of fact, I can't wait to get these two, the scrappy quilt and my other one, quilted, so that I can work on a couple other ones that I want to work on. Do you prefer traditional or modern quilts? I prefer traditional because I don't know any better. It wasn't until I went to Paducah about a month and a half ago that I even really saw traditional or modern quilts, and I noticed that they were heavily appliqued. So if I ever move down the path of wanting to ever someday try to enter one of those, I realize that I'm going to have to move towards modern and move towards applique. But I still am the old traditional, give me a churn dash block any day of the week, So I hope that answers that. What's your favorite quilting technique so far? So far, it's been, and I don't have a sort of metal for it. So far, it's been my Dresden block. I love to make these. I just love to make them. And I know some people commented that they're hard. They're not hard, especially if you use the templates for them. I think what's hard probably is making the circle. That's the hardest part. But hopefully I'm going to get that thing down. But favorite quilting technique. I don't know if that's a technique, but my favorite block so far is my Dresdens. Do you use patterns or make your own designs? I'm not smart enough to make my own patterns or blocks. I just go with what other people have made. But when it comes to making my quilt designs, I sort of make my own. Like the sampler quilt, I use traditional blocks, 5 traditional blocks, and then just arranged them however I thought they would do. I have found out, like I said, all my blocks are 12 inches. Um, that if you make 30 blocks with a 2-inch sashing between them and a 6-inch border all the way around, that usually has been a good formula for me for making a queen size quilt. So that's my formula is 30 blocks, 30 12-inch blocks with 2-inch sashings all the way around them and a 6-inch border. That comes out to roughly 90 by 100, some roughly right around there. And I've been happy with that. So what was the question? Do I make my own designs? No, I make my own designs, but I use traditional blocks so far. Do you hand quilt or machine quilt? I everything is machine quilted. Everything. I have no plans to hand quilt. I admire people that do hand quilt, especially when they do like applique and whole cloth quilts. But I think I don't have the patience for hand quilting, and I have no. If I have to even sew anything by hand, so far I haven't had to do it, and I don't look forward to it. Where do you get your inspirations? Started out with Pinterest and Instagram. I started just going through typing in quilting, quilt blocks, and I use Pinterest and Instagram. And if I see a design that I like, no particular reason, like the folded corner one, I just like the look of it. And I said, well, let's see if I can do that. But I've moved into Facebook groups. There's a ton of Facebook groups with free quilt patterns. And I love when people show what they've made. And I'm in awe of what some of the people, beginning quilters, have made. They make me look like I don't even know what I'm doing. So that's where I get my inspiration, from others. See what they've done, and I say, oh, I like that, or oh, I think I could do a little tweak on that and make it my own. That's it. How do you choose your color combinations? I don't know. I just try to do a dark, medium, and a light. Like in my helix blocks, I just try to put a dark fabric, a medium, and a light. Or if it's just 2 colors, I just try to do something that's a light and a dark. I always try to match them up together. There's no, if somebody likes my color combinations, it's just been pure, it's just what I liked. No rhyme or reason. But like the Dresden here, this was a happy accident. I bought a layer cake that had all these colors already in it, and I didn't know what to do with it. And then when I decided to make a Dresden, I had that layer cake sitting up there, and I just cut it up. So yeah, this wasn't, I hate to tell you this wasn't my creation. It was my creation that I put, if you see here, here's a dark color with a light color. That's my creation. But as far as picking the colors and the fabric, that was all just a layer cake. So I can't take credit for that, but I will. Where are we at? Do you plan out your quilt or improvise? Well, like I said, when I first started, I was improvising. I bought Electric Quilt 8, which is a computer software, and I'm trying to, in the future, at least lay out the size on the computer. Like when I do this Dresden, I'm going to try and make a Dresden quilt. I'm going to lay out the size, trying to figure out if I need to do an 18-inch or a 20-inch block. I'll do that on the computer, but when I first started, I was just improvising and seeing what happened. I remember that first quilt, I started out with only 4 blocks, and it wasn't big enough, so I had to add another block, and that's how I come up with a 5x6. Hope I'm not boring you too bad so far. If you're still here, thank you. What does your sewing space look like? Well, I'm going to show you that in another video, but you can see it started out with a folding table and that ruler set that I told you I bought. Then I went and bought these Husky tables, and I think my second or third video was me buying a Husky table, and then which led me to buying another one, and now I own 3 of those things. So I've got my Husky table and my sewing machine here, and I got my workspace is pretty much here. My computer table is over here. Then I went out and bought this. You know, I like I said, I copy a lot of people. This from IKEA, the Calyx, and that's pretty much it. And then I just built the other room. I'm finishing it with the long arm and another Husky table and my cutie frame. I'll show you that one. Do you listen to music podcasts or enjoy quiet time while quilting? I listen to podcasts. Like I said, I'm a big Audible fan. I listen to podcasts, and I have TV shows. Like I said, I was on this big Columbo kick, and I don't need to watch Columbo. I just listen to him. But that's usually I don't listen to music too much, but I listen to podcasts and TV. It says, how often do you quilt during the week? Sometimes just an hour a day. Like I said, I've been remodeling these rooms, so it's actually hard for me to quilt or piece a lot of times. Sometimes I don't get to quilt at all, and but some days I get 3 or 4 hours. So there's no set time. I know people talked about my posture here, and that they tell me I need to raise my chair and everything. I'm usually not sewing. I'm between sewing, pressing, and cutting. I'm usually not right there at that table for more than 15 minutes at a time. So I don't never have time to get sore. And I get up and move around. Like I said, and trying to lose weight, I've been walking a lot. How do you organize your fabric and tools? That's a very good question. When I first started, I watched all these YouTube videos, and I was trying to put them nice and neat. You ever see the people that are so organized that they have all their fabrics lined up like that? I can't do it. I tried. Right now, look, it's just laying there. Yeah, you can see where I tried. Here's where I tried. I tried to do this and stand them all up and nice and neat. Good luck with that. Here's what I've been doing. Let me see. Right here. Here's what I've been doing. I've been using Ziploc bags. And if I find a lot of, like this right here, these are for my scrappy quilts. I put all my pieces, if they're small enough, in Ziploc bags. And I try to color coordinate them. So I've got literally, I've literally got dozens and dozens of bags that I keep in here. And I sort of know where they're at too, by the way. Yeah, I just keep all my scraps in bags. And then all my big pieces here are up here. Now, you're going to tell me this is going to change, but I'm trying to only buy fabric for a project. I know I will have leftovers, and that's what I'm putting in the bags, but I'm going to try my best to not just go out and buy fabric on a whim. I want to have a particular project in mind when I buy the fabric, and only try to buy enough fabric for that project, and then any scraps will go into a bag here for maybe another project. But I don't think you're going to see me have vertical columns of fabric nice and neat. It isn't going to happen. What what techniques are you excited to try next? And then is there a dream quilt you want to make? I've mentioned this before. Wedding ring. I've always considered that I don't even consider myself a quilter until I have made a wedding ring. That seems to be the pinnacle for me to do. So I would like to, before the year's out, at least, I have the templates. I got the Cut Right, Quilter's Paradise Cut Right templates for making a wedding ring. So I'm going to start in my spare time just cutting them out and getting them at least cut out, and then maybe hopefully by this fall I can start piecing it in. I'd like to have made a wedding ring quilt by the end of the year. So that is my dream quilt, to say I did it. That's my I did it quilt. Do you see quilting becoming a lifelong hobby? Yes, absolutely. I'm saying that for the bank, for the long arm. Yeah, I'm at least into it until I get that baby paid off. But I love this hobby. I mean, I do. And I don't care what anybody says about it. You know, I had a woman the other day just sort of making fun of me, and I don't care. I like it. If they don't like it, tough. Matter of fact, you know, I was going to talk to you about that documentary. You know, people said it's a dying art. And I'm thinking, no. I just went to Paducah and there was thousands of people there. And, you know, Netflix just put out a documentary called The Quilters, if you've seen that. You know, they don't waste their money on things that people won't want to watch, and people are interested in it. It may not be as popular as it was 30, 40 years ago. I don't know. It may even be more popular. I know there's a lot of people selling a lot of different sewing machines out there, so I plan on not quitting. I'm going to keep going. Any advice for brand new quilters? Yeah, I wrote down here, start slow, cheap, and learn before you buy. You can go on Facebook Marketplace and buy just a cheap sewing machine as long as it sews straight lines, and you can get a quarter inch seam on your machine. You know, offset. As long as it sews straight, you can get a $20 sewing machine and get going. And like I said, this ruler set I probably paid another $30 for it. So start off slow, start off cheap. Don't go buying fancy things until you learn, because everybody's got a different opinion, and you'll be like me and spending thousands of dollars on things that you didn't need. What have I learned about myself through quilting? I didn't have an answer for this one. What have I learned about myself through quilting? That I guess I never considered myself to be artsy. That I do have some. I do like to design stuff. I think I've learned not to care about other people's opinions so much. You know, this, and that's been a big stigma for me. Is you know, this is a woman's hobby or something like that. That's the biggest thing I've learned is I don't care. You know, I'm 61. Maybe my ego at 25 would be different, but at 61, I don't care what they think. They're not paying my bills, so they want to pay my bills. They can tell me what to do, but they ain't, so I don't listen to them. That was it. That's it. I hope I kept your interest there. But 6 months, I'm gonna keep on going, and hopefully you stick with me, and we're gonna get bigger and better, and make some wonderful things. Hopefully, I'll meet you at a quilt show. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. I love the button club and interacting with you guys. Make sure you send buttons. That slowed down, which that's fine. Like I said, I knew it would slow down a little bit, but yeah, send your buttons. I'll put a link down below to send your button in. Join the Memory Makers Button Club, and that was just a way to get out and interact. But anyways, that's 6 months. I'm enjoying it, and I hope you are too. Remember, like I said, quilts. All these quilts have memories in them, and that's why like I said, the Button Club is my representation of memories. But you know what? Go out and take a family or friend, or call somebody you know. If you can't get out, just call somebody you know, and just talk to them and make memories that way. But go out and make memories, and I will see you later. Bye.